Hello, I'm Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of Winona. Over the past few weeks, we have been learning about the history of the Watkins family and the Watkins business. We have found out how one man started a business empire by selling a little bottle of liniment door to door. He also began a family dynasty whose members traveled and owned fantastic houses throughout the world. But in 1977, something happened that no one expected. The Watkins family lost the Watkins business. Today we're going to talk with one of the members of the new family that owns and operates Watkins. We'll take a tour of the company and find out what Watkins is like today. In the J.R. Watkins Show, we not only learned about the history of the family and the company, but we also learned about the construction of the buildings that stand between 3rd and 4th Streets and Chestnut and Liberty Streets in near downtown Winona. The grandest of the buildings is the administration offices facing Liberty Street. We found out about the exterior construction of this magnificent building designed by George Washington Mayer of Chicago, Illinois. On Thanksgiving evening at 8 p.m. in 1912, the best musicians in the St. Paul Symphony Orchestra came down to Winona to play their music for the invited guests at the grand opening of the J.R. Watkins Administration Building. George Washington Mayer, the architect of the finest private office building in the world, was on hand to greet the guests, as was Paul Watkins, the president of the company, and E.L. King, the vice president. Today, the building looks almost identical to how it looked then, on the exterior as well as the interior. Entering at the center portal, you walk across a marble floor. Gazing to the right, your eye takes you under an arched ceiling, looking over a myriad of office cubicles to enclosed private offices 125 feet away at the south end of the building. A gaze to the left takes you through a similar configuration, also 125 feet away from private offices on the north end of the building. Looking closer at the arched ceiling, you can see one of the most outstanding features of this magnificent building. 224 stained glass windows designed by Louis Millette of Chicago, Illinois. Each stained glass section has the Watkins W at the east-west end of the window. These windows were designed as skylights for the offices below. In the construction, we can see the centers of the arch cut out where glass prisms were set in steel and concrete to allow sunlight in. This roof flies 7 feet above the stained glass skylights we see inside. Within that space originally were large electric lights that illuminated the windows inside on gloomy days and evenings. Originally, mahogany posts lined the center walkway of the office space. Attached to the posts were 4 leaded glass lanterns. The posts were separated by brass railings. In this picture taken circa 1915, we see a tower of Watkins products built on the left. The lights above provided a unique way of lighting for the time. They illuminated upward, providing indirect lighting to the floor below. The main light was meant to come from the skylights. It was reported they were made of steel and concrete because that's how they looked. When they came down in the 60s, they were found to be made of paper mache. Louis Millette was nearly as well known for his stained glass skylights at this time as was Louis Tiffany. Today, the offices below the magnificent skylights are illuminated by large fluorescent lights. The north end of the building currently houses the testing kitchen on the 2nd floor. This is where the company tests all their food-related products. From here, the large windows provide a perfect view of the elongated barrel-shaped room below. Unique designs are found throughout the building, especially in the central rotunda. Across from the entrance is a doorway to further offices. Display cases of current Watkins products stand on either side, but the eye is really drawn to the magnificent mosaic design under the balcony. According to Watkins family members, this lovely mosaic was designed by Tiffany Studios, as were the mosaic designs on the faces of the 12 pillars which support the arches of the vaulted roof throughout the main part of the building. These fantastic designs contain a myriad of tiny pieces of opalescent glass, gathered in groupings of bright, beautiful colors, bursting forth in rich, pleasing designs. The Watkins W is embedded at the very top. In the very center of the building, looking up, we see a vast dome making this area a rotunda. Looking closer, we see the crowning expression of all the designs in this magnificent building. This dome, supposedly designed by Tiffany, is a mosaic of tiny pieces of opalescent glass. 8 Watkins W's radiate from the center in a lovely design. The glass pieces around the W's are all inlaid in 24-karat gold. A circular stained glass skylight is at the center with 4 W's encircled within. It is apparent that a true master was at work when these designs were created. The arches in the rotunda are surrounded with rich marbles. There is an Alps green wainscoting 2.5 feet high, and above this is found a unique sienna marble which is gold in color. A strip of mosaic glass in a lovely pattern follows the arch around. The wall opposite, which is the entrance, masks the same design. However, the arch above contains perhaps the most famous window in Winona, the scene of our beloved landmark, Sugarloaf. Is it a Tiffany design or a Millette design? Architectural historians have differing opinions. However, it's there to stay regardless of who created this fantastic ode to our past and to our future. There is also a lovely arched stained glass window at the north end of the building, which depicts another bluff scene, and one at the south end of the building, which is encased over the private entrance of the building. The beauty of these windows can only be seen from the inside. Outdoors, a protective glass was installed, which covers the richness of the details. We head to the south end of the building, where we again see the Alps green marble in pedestal form and a lovely white veined marble from Italy for steps. A unique brass wall clock, supposedly designed by Tiffany, hangs between the offices, which over the 90 years of their existence have seen many executives come and go. The mahogany beamed office on the left is the current president's office. Here we see the rarest and most spectacular marble in the building. It is a beautiful red marble from Egypt. In the basement of the building are 4 vaults containing an area of 5,000 square feet. During the Watkins era, these vaults contained filing space. Today they are used to house the graphics department. Jim Welch, the head of this department, has been with the company for 40 years. He has ridden out the bumpiest time of the Watkins existence and feels what held the company together then was the people. Their loyal spirit backed the quality of the products they were making and continued to through the transition from one family's ownership to another's. In 1978, after the Watkins Company went bankrupt, a young man from Minneapolis with 5 young children named Irwin Jacobs took a gamble and bought the company for $4.6 million, not to liquidate it, but to keep it a viable organization. The loyalty of the Watkins employees was paid for by not losing the company to a liquidator. I'm presently sitting with Mark Jacobs, who is the current president of Watkins. We're sitting in one of the executive offices here. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the Spirit of Winona.
Thank you.
Now, Mark, you've been with the company for how many years?
Well, I've been involved since I was a little boy. So 23 years is when 23 years ago my father purchased it. But I've been living here in Winona. We moved here in 1995.
Well, tell me what it was like when he took over the company.
He was, I think, 37, 38 years old, and I was, 14 or something, and I came down here with him. I remember the week he got the company, and he and I came down here on a Sunday, and it was, you could see that, just this building in itself is inspiring, and see what a great company this had been at one time. But it was in sad shape. Just even the presentation of the offices, was they were a mess, and the executive offices were a mess, and there was nobody really. It was like a ship running itself. All along, the challenges the company still kept putting out a quality product. There were a lot of good people here that are still here that had a passion for the brand and were determined to keep putting out a great quality product. And that's really what saved it. The company had a lot of debt and what have you, and he since that time has invested considerable dollars to, the company was down to, I think, doing $5 or $10 million a year, and just a little catalog company, and no real, I think, down to several thousand associates. And he's steadily grown the company over the last 20-something years, and now we have 30,000 associates and do closer to $50 million. So.
Now tell me, with his purchase of the company, what did that mean? What did he acquire along with that purchase? Tell me about the buildings and about the branches and about the products and the recipes. Tell me what he acquired.
Sure. Well, the recipes and the trademark, all that stuff obviously came with it. The Watkins name and brand and everything that stood for and all the licensing. As far as buildings, there was this building and some other property. We have some other warehouse spaces in Winona, also up in Winnipeg, Canada. Facility, and we still have a facility, a different one, but we have a facility up in Winnipeg to handle our Canadian business. I think there was a distribution center in Toledo, Ohio, which was not being used much, and we don't have that anymore. And all the assets of the company in the building, from obviously the product inventory and what have you. And there were some other some stories that a lot of people have heard about, some jewels and paintings that had been purchased with the company's money that belonged to the company that also came with the company. Some nice Remington artwork. And
what happened to the branches that they had in Africa and Australia?
Australia, yeah, it's a good question. From what I can tell, they in the 60s, the family members that owned the company started letting those go also. I think it was the same type of thing. They didn't want to put any more money into them. Some of them they sold out to probably raise some capital to try to save the business. But they had none of those. Those were all gone.
When Irwin Jacobs and his son Mark first stepped in the door of the Watkins Company 23 years ago, things began to improve. With Irwin directing, several presidents took the helm, the strongest of these being Richard Wantuck, who ran the company at record sales and profits from 1985 until 1992. Tell me what happened to the agricultural line.
The agricultural line was sold off, and I'm not sure who purchased that. It was sold, maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago. And that simply, the thought was it did not fit our core business, which is selling tried and true, great consumable products to human beings.
Mark, tell me about the current products that you have today.
Well, our product range is quite diverse. We have approximately 400 products, and the basic categories are medicinals, and then we've got gourmet foods, which includes everything from spices and herbs to grapeseed oils, and then we have home care. We also have a pet line, and then the fourth would be personal care, botanical personal care, aloe and green tea, lotions, bubble baths, peppermint foot scrubs.
Tell me about liniment. Do you still have liniment?
Still have liniment. We actually have two liniments right now. We have our original liniment, which is made with from the red pepper plant and camphor from the Asian evergreen, and that's a topical analgesic which you put on and it heats up and acts as a pain reliever. And we also have a white cream liniment, which is also from camphor, but it's creamy and a little less hot than the other one. And those are still two of our top sellers.
Besides the Watkins catalog, all of Watkins products can be purchased at the Watkins Museum, which is housed in the old printing building on 3rd Street. Mark Metzler, the communications director, shows us what the hot new sellers are as well as the old favorites.
We have these hot sauces, Jer salsa, and then this tropical salsa, and then one of my favorites is the Inferno sauce. I love to put this on egg. It tastes great. It's wonderful. And then up here we have some liquid spices and grapeseed oils. Now grapeseed oil is a little different than olive oil, a little less fat. So
you use it in cooking?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Use it in cooking, and then you use it for salads too. You can make up like a vinaigrette and stuff with it. Our longest standing product is the Watkins vanilla. We've had this since 1895, and it's our most popular seller today still.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. My mom, every time she calls, she says, "Bring me some vanilla." And I said, "Sure." She goes through it fast. A lot of people do. We've sold enough vanilla to make 13 billion chocolate chip cookies over the years.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How'd you figure that out?
We took the numbers of bottles that we sold and divided them by ingredients in chocolate chip cookies.
Mark, out of all these products, which are the products that are the mainstays, the ones that were here when Jacobs took over Watkins?
Oh, sure. The products like the vanilla, the pepper, the cinnamon, the laundry detergent, the soup bases for sure, and the dessert mixes, a lot of the cleaning products. There's a lot of products that have stayed throughout time. But we keep introducing different products to see which ones work, and they in turn become, new products and new high sellers for us.
So would you say most of these products then are brand new to the line?
I would say about more than half since the Jacobs family has taken over.
Now the sales concept was so interesting that JR incorporated, and that was the direct sales door-to-door. Now do you still have that concept? Or
We have associates. We have very few going door-to-door anymore because people don't open their doors too much anymore. And also in the old days when we were more agriculture society, there was somebody home during the day to answer the door. And now we've got most of America and two-income families. And you wouldn't find people home during the day. Today our associates, earn their living by basically recommending our products and sharing our catalogs, and they can have a website. They can bring the catalog to their office they work and show it to people, and when people order, they give their name or associate number, and we give commission on that. So it's more word of mouth marketing, and we do the distribution fulfillment.
In 1991, the Watkins Company purchased the Barron's Manufacturing Building on West 3rd Street and created a state-of-the-art distribution center for the price of $1.1 million. From here, all the orders are filled by an automatic picking system, packaged and sent out by UPS directly to the customer. So do you think this is still considered the direct selling concept?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's just direct selling of this century. It's just a new. Now the value an associate provides is in our. They're basically our advertising arm. Well, today it's an exciting time because there's first of all the direct selling industry is changing dramatically, and the value of an associate has switched from being a distributor and deliverer of our products to being a word of mouth marketer. So what we're seeing is we're attracting more professional people that realize that this is a great way to supplement your income. We also have a lot of other projects going on, and we are expanding internationally, and some of that includes, we just actually opened in England and Ireland 2 weeks ago, direct selling division there. And in Puerto Rico, we're actually working with some retail places and using a different channel of distribution in Puerto Rico.
Well, Mark, I'm hoping you're going to give us a tour of the company today.
I'd be glad to.
Super.
We'll show you around.
Okay. Up the marble steps of what used to be the private entrance for the Watkins and King families lies the current Board of Directors room for the Jacobs family.
Well, we call this JR's boardroom now. It was built for JR. JR worked with the architects in designing this building and unfortunately passed away in Jamaica before the completion of the building. So this really, we use it as a meeting room, a boardroom. It was built to be the president's office, and it has been used over the years for that purpose. I don't use it that way. It's, as you can see, it looks out over above all the employees. And it's not really the best way to create team spirit. It's everybody's favorite little room in the building.
It is a beautiful room.
Yeah.
I see one lone little bottle of liniment. Is that symbolic for you?
Yes, we keep the one bottle of liniment there to kind of symbolize, our roots and where we started.
What's behind the doors?
Behind the doors, it's really like an office suite. There's a full tiled bathroom and kitchen and humidors for keeping your cigars. It was really built to be an office suite, if you will. In the old days, they come up through their private entrance and probably have their cigars and cognacs and talk about business.
At the south end of the building lies a small door that takes us into the 10-story manufacturing building, which was ingeniously designed by George Mayer in 1913. We pass sacks of raw pepper sent directly from India. They lie between massive support columns, which we see throughout this building. We head to the elevator, which takes us to the spice floor, where they are currently bottling a spice blend. The bottles are being covered automatically, which differs a bit from the 1920s when each cap was handled individually. The labeling process has also changed from the 1920s method. Today we see an automatic system which wets the sticky label and mechanically adheres it to the bottle. The gal in 1920 not only manually moistened the labels with her brush, but made sure the label was stuck on each bottle. Mark, how many spices do you make here at Watkins?
That's a good question. We probably we have probably about 50 pure spices, and then another probably another 50 blends. So we have a pumpkin pie spice blend that'll mix the cloves and cinnamon and what have you, and potato salad seasonings, which you just saw, and coleslaw seasonings and meat seasonings. So we have blends and spices, probably about 100 altogether.
Where do you get your spices from?
Well, our spices, this is a current map of where we source the raw materials, and you can see here in Indonesia we get our cassia cinnamon, which comes in a bark form, which there's what it looks like. Where's that cinnamon? There's cinnamon bark, which you've probably seen cinnamon sticks before, but that actually is the bark from a cassia tree.
Okay.
And our cinnamon, we buy cinnamon with 3 to 5% oil, unlike a lot of cinnamon that's 1 to 2% oil. So when you take our cinnamon and rub it on your hand, versus a lot of other cinnamons, you can see ours is oily and smells real fragrant and it's rich. Same with our pepper. You see our Malabar pepper here from Indonesia, and we also get some pepper from India. It's very, very oily, and we have our broker buy us the best crops, which you pay more for, but that's what we pride ourselves on, is best quality.
Next to the elevator, we can see a passageway to the next building. All 7 buildings on the block are interconnected. Most of the manufacturing and blending of products is done in the 10-story building, as well as the 7-story building next to the museum. The remaining buildings are used for warehouse space. At one of your assembly lines, and it looks like they're putting together the liniment. Tell me how the liniment has changed from when JR made it.
Well, the liniment is an external analgesic, and in the old days, from what we know of the formulas, they used to use a lot of opiates, which of course made people feel a lot better for almost anything. Today we use the same basic formula without the opiates, and the red pepper derivative and the camphor. It should be used as an external analgesic. And liniment you can feel, it's very strong. When you put it on, you feel it warm up the nerves, and it helps relax muscles and relieve muscle pain. It's great for like after skiing or sports or people with arthritis.
So nobody takes it internally anymore?
We hope not. Okay. We hope not. I'm sure there's still some people that do, but we don't recommend it.
I see you still have the trial mark.
We still have the trial mark. We use that in a lot of our bottles, the very first money-back guarantee, and we still honor that today.
And your bottle now has switched from glass to plastic.
We also do glass. We do special runs for holidays and glass, but the plastic is much more practical and safer in the bathroom and what have you.
Now you said you had 450 products. Are all the products made here in Winona?
About 400 actually products, and 90% of the products are made here. Portions of them are made somewhere else, and we do the rest. Trying to think of an example of that. Soup bases. We may use a basic ingredient from another supplier and then add our pepper to it and fill it here, instead of boiling down the chicken fat from scratch. And so we have our hand in almost every product. Liniment, where you've seen today, we do that from scratch here still. Same with our vanillas and our spices and our lotions and salves and what have you.
You did say liniment is still one of your most
popular
products.
Still one of our most popular products, and even with the next generation, a lot of younger people we're noticing are buying the original liniment.
How many bottles do you suppose you bottle up a day?
That's a good question. We don't run it every day. We try to be efficient and do big runs of things, and then bring something else to the line. So liniment, we may run liniment for several days and I'm trying to think how many bottles of liniment we do. you know, we have the statistics on how many bottles we've actually sold, and it was like enough to go along the Great Wall of China 3 times or something. I mean, it's a pretty incredible statistic. We probably, oh gosh, hundreds of thousands of bottles a year. I don't know what the exact number is.
I can see you're making a lot.
We're making a lot, yeah.
Okay.
This is our insect repellent lotion for Canada. We do not sell it in the United States. There's different regulatory laws here, but it's a very strong, effective insect repellent lotion that the police in Canada use. So this is one of our top products for Canada.
And why can't we sell it here?
We have a spray form of it that we are allowed to sell here because our health department and FDA has different rules than the Canadian one. So
okay, so you make this product right here.
And we ship it up to Canada to our distribution center. Okay. And you can see that's why it's in French also. Everything's bilingual.
I see.
You see that coming through there? It's made above. This building, what's wonderful is it was well designed almost 100 years ago to use, George Mayer, who designed the offices, also designed the factory, and it uses gravity. You see that coming down there so as things wind their way down, the vanilla works its way down through each process until it hits the filling line. So that's coming from a different floor and being filled right here.
The floor directly above us holds several galvanized tanks where the ingredients for the bug spray are mixed with various motorized equipment. A variety of different sized tanks stand on each floor that lies directly above the bottling floor. These tanks are cleaned and sanitized manually between processes. Back in the old days, the tanks were more than likely made of iron or brass and filled by hand with a shovel if the ingredients were in powder form, and from a metal jug if the ingredients were liquid. The ingredients in the tanks were then stirred by hand by a team of stirrers in white hats. The ingredients were then brought to the assembly line in a pail with a spout, where the assembly line worker would fill her funnel-shaped container and fill each bottle in any order she wished.
Mark, the building we're standing in right now is the administration offices, and are all your offices right in this building right here?
Our offices are right here. We also have a small office building in Winnipeg for Canada, but in the U.S. this is and also we have our graphics department downstairs. But yes, an incredible building. George Mayer, who did a lot for the Watkins family, was from the Prairie School. He actually taught Frank Lloyd Wright and Purcell's and Sullivan was from the Prairie School of Architecture in Chicago. And never quite got the notoriety they did because he died very young, I think in 1924. But it's just, it's incredible to have this jewel of a building here in Winona with Tiffany glass windows and beautiful marble from monasteries in Italy. And it's a nice building to work in because the light, he used a lot of open spaces and lets the light come pouring through. So we love it and love to have visitors come visit us. So.
Is this one of the original wagons for Watkins?
This is one of the original wagons, yeah, and we've just recently repainted it actually. You can see we don't have Hindu paint oil anymore, but this is one of the original wagons that would go from town to town serving the rural customer.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell me, what's it like to have your offices and your business in this fantastic building?
I love working in this building, and it's very humbling. You feel like you're, I consider myself fortunate just to be part of this great company and part of such a long history, and there'll be many more people after me, and there are many more people before me, and a lot of people working with me to move the great brand forward. So for me, it's a thrill, but it is very humbling to be in such an incredible building, and you realize you're part of a brand that is one of a few brands in America that has stood the test of time. Almost 135 years.
Exactly. And I want to thank you, not only for the interview and for the wonderful tour, but also for bringing the integrity back to this business for Winona.
I appreciate that. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, too, for joining me today. Please join me again next week. Till then, enjoy the Spirit of Winona.